How'd you guys meet CJ?
So that's a story.
That is a story.
So
yeah.
actually, that's a story. So we met CJ. We're buying cell phones, and actually, I had a cell phone plan that was an unlimited plan, and CJ was challenging the unlimited plan. That there was another plan that was better. So I made the analogy: why would I give up a blank check? And he showed me. He was like, "Well, if you give me a few minutes, I could show you how you could actually save money." And so I followed through with the enthusiasm that he had, and I was kind of curious to see how this would work out. But
because he wasn't believing it.
I was very pessimistic. But it did work out, and then from then forward, we always bought our cell phones from CJ. And so eventually CJ grew and expanded out and moved into real estate. So we were in a position where we knew we wanted to buy a house, but we weren't ready at the time. We had one of our major stipulations is that we wanted to make sure our youngest daughter, was out of high school. So once we started approaching that time, a little bit before, me and CJ sat down, had lunch, and after lunch we all got together and started the real estate adventure of buying a house, which it was very pleasant. I think it wasn't without its bumps and ups and downs and challenges. I think at one point in the process I was ready to throw the towel in, and CJ talked me off the ledge because it was quite unique. Because right now in Columbus, I think at the time we purchased our house, we were #2 market in the nation.
That's correct.
And so, from a buyer standpoint, there's the sellers pretty much corner the market. They could pretty much demand what they wanted. So.
Right.
And we knew what we wanted. We knew we wanted a particular home, and we wanted it in a particular area, and we weren't settling. And sometimes it's labor intensive to find those houses, especially after you go in and out of different houses, and you see the house you want, but there's bits and pieces of it in different houses, and you just want to take all those houses and put them together.
Well, yeah, speak on that a little bit too. So, kind of speak on like the area that you guys moved from and why you chose to, migrate away from that.
Me being in transit, a real part of it, I wanted to be closer to transit. One of the initial moves that we made, we wanted to be closer to downtown. That was
closer to our jobs.
The main one of the founding factors. Which came out to be not so founding. But we were close to downtown. Both of us were less than 10 minutes away from our jobs. We were close to public transit. But in the area, the Near East area was a challenge. The area actually got hot. The market was very exciting at the time. So the houses were a little... not underwhelming, but our expectations weren't being met as far as quality of house.
They were remodeling a lot of older homes, historical homes, which at first it sounded like a great idea, but then as we started looking at more and more of the craftsmanship of the houses, it wasn't meeting, our expectations. So we kind of started talking to CJ about, okay, well, we want to stay kind of on, the old east, Old Town East side, and so we could still stay close to work, but we would like a newer house.
Right.
So the more and more we kept kind of looking at what was in the area, we were not pleased with what we were finding. It just wasn't quite hitting that mark. So then I kind of started venturing out a little further.
Yeah.
Kind of against the grain, but so we started kind of expanding, our terrain.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we ended up kind of being out here in like the eastern area.
Right. Yeah, I think through that process, I know we had this idea of what we wanted, and we kind of knew where. But I think through the process, you still have to be flexible. There's a point where you know that there's certain wants that you want, but even still, the reality has to manifest, and you have to have some patience, some resilience, and just follow the process. Because sometimes if you're just in the now, and just even certain fields of the house. I know we had a conversation with CJ, and CJ said, you know the house when you're in it.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in the house, you know it. And after that, everything just flows. So we just had to get to that point. And I think sometimes we put our predeterminations of what we want in the house and we think it should be, and then the reality of it is somewhere else. So that was definitely just the flexibility going through the process.
Yeah, speaking on the process, like, because it was a part of the transaction where we were talking about taking it step by step.
Mm-hmm.
So can you guys talk about how we strategically went along the process step by step to make sure that everything was smooth? Because I know there was a time you were speaking about hiccups earlier. So I guess kind of speak on the benefit of taking it step by step along the journey of finding a house.
Well, I think we were in a unique position because we already had a relationship with CJ. So I think with any realtor, you really have to have a relationship to be honest about what you want and what your needs are, and then there's a level of clarity that you could speak on to get everybody's expectation on a certain level. I think ours was a little bit unique because I think in the past, or what I've heard before, is that you need to get pre-approval, and we kind of started out before that. So we kind of pretty much started out with CJ. The first step is, what are you looking for and where are you looking for? And then what's your range? You know, so
one of the first questions is, are you serious about buying a house? It's like, look, before we get into this, are you sure you want to buy a house? Because once we get started, I'm gonna get rolling. So that was like the first pre-qualifier.
Oh, definitely. So I can't remember the exact. Be aggressive.
Yes. Yes.
Be aggressive. So once we got started, it did pick up pretty quick.
Yes.
And I think that contributed to just the market that we were in. Mm-hmm. And I think for us too, getting through that first step, getting into the market and seeing houses, mm-hmm. and kind of exploring and getting a feel of what house do we really want. Mm-hmm. I know we talked about the idea of what you want, but when you really see it, is that really what you want? Right. So bringing that from theory to reality and seeing it is kind of visceral, and you have to experience that when you go into a house. Pictures really, they do great, they save you time, they're very efficient, but you have to be in the space to feel the space and to see it out and just really almost replace your stuff or see your things, your items, your bed, and your couch, and see how it flows and how it fits for your life.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So for both of you, what was like the best moment of the transaction or the process? Like, what was one of the most monumental moments during?
For me, signing off on the house and having everything go through, all the financing aspect of it was done, and that went very smoothly in my mind. So, you know, to be told that, hey, this is what you qualify for, this is, you know, how much house you can buy, and you're approved. You know, that part for me was pivotal for me. So yeah.
I think there were several. Of course, signing off at the closing when it's all done was definitely one of the high points. But I would say when we first got into the house and we saw it from the inside, and you have that moment like, I think this is it. You know, this feels right.
The house he didn't want to see.
Well, it's kind of ironic because I didn't want
to.
I didn't want to go to the house because what was listed on paper. Some, you know, just facts and data. And sometimes facts and data is not everything. There's an experience to it. So it's definitely the experience, you have to, sometimes, if it's something that, it fits, you need to go look at it.
Now, I'm sorry, where you going?
Okay. I was just going to say, one of the things with dealing with you, CJ, in the process is you made the house hunting aspect of it enjoyable. It wasn't like painful and agonizing, because you paid close attention to the details that we were looking for in a home, and location, and amenities that we wanted nearby. So that for me also, I think, was helpful and made the whole process a lot smoother.
I appreciate that. Yeah, what I was going to ask you guys is, like, now that you're in the home, because it's always this transition. I mean, you guys were in your previous rental for some time. It was home. I mean, you guys had a lot of space there. But even when you're buying a house, whether it's more space, different location, now that after, like, what has life been after closing?
It's been great. So you have kind of a reassuring moment. So we were in a unique position where we wanted to move. We wanted the house. We didn't have to buy.
Exactly.
Which was great for us. But we knew we needed more space. And so after we got in and got settled, we kind of had that moment like, yeah, this is ours, but this was the right move. We have the space that we need. And you're in the space, and you move through the space, and you can see the actual function as you go through life, and the small things that you really don't think about, like who's in the bathroom and how long the hot water runs. When
Yeah.
The life, actually living the life, and or being in a space. And once you experience that's when you really, and I think it takes a few weeks after you're like, yeah,
The transition.
we did it.
But it felt like home. And even when people come visit, they're like, it's really comfortable here. Like, do we have to leave? Like, yes, you do, but enjoy it while you're here.
Right.
But yeah, I think was the first part of moving and settling in, and just kind of taking everything in, and that fun part of what's going to go where, and just to say I'm owning it.
Yeah. So if you had to summarize the experience for yourself in a couple words, what would those words be? Like, if you were telling a family member or a friend, how would you explain your process? Or just summarize it.
Smooth, professional, but personal. I know that's not one word, but I think just as a summary, those three words explain the whole experience, from the financing to really, when you look at it as a whole, the whole process was very smooth. I know we had some challenges in there, but even still, we conquered those very well. And I've heard horror stories, and people get turned down at closing because of other issues, or there's just issues with the contract negotiations, but everything went well.
You kept us reassured. It was very professional, but yet it was family.
Right.
So that's how I would put it.
Yeah, so I want to thank you guys. I mean, taking you through the journey was fun for myself as well, and I appreciate you sitting out time for us to do this as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, more than welcome, CJ.